So one of my big projects right now is bring on a freelancer to help with content. I know what to do with content. I spend a lot of time looking at it, taking courses, watching all about it. But where I'm falling short right now is the actual execution of it. So getting the ideas consistently out there, testing, shipping, and just doing it for like weeks and months on a time. So my idea is to hire a freelancer to help just with the execution aspect of it. And I noticed that when I was taking a couple of these interviews with potential people through Upwork, that when they're asking kind of like, hey, what's the job, or like, what do you do, and stuff like that, I realized that I was having a bit of friction in terms of like them thinking that they would have to come up with the strategy and stuff like that, or like where they would actually fit in the job. And so what I did is I got my whiteboard right here, which just helps get everything out there, right? And I've got my mind map here. Over here on this section, I'm thinking about all the main components that go into this: ideas, formats, copy, research, creation, scheduling, engagement, reporting, and actual execution. And then there's sub categories and things that go into that. For example, on the content creation side, we've got 3 gyms. I can't be the one at every gym filming all the time, but if I only film at one location, the other members are going to be like, what the heck? And just one location isn't indicative of all the things that we're actually doing, because we've got just a more robust operation. Figuring how do we get that content, and then who's going to edit the content. Or on the copy front, which if you've been watching my vlogs on some of the other ones, I've been talking about using ChatGPT and how to scale tone, how to scale vibe, and how to be able to get actual ideas from out of my head into a format where we can execute with more people. Now, where I landed on this is going back to one of Oren Meets World's videos on brand planning and strategy. Is step number 1 is mapping out your full calendar. So looking up at the year. And he's got a really solid framework where you like look at all the main events of the year and like what are your big ones that happen, once or twice a year, and then what are your like more seasonal and recurring ones. So you map all that out. And then step 2 is you create the narrative content plan. That's when you get a bit more granular on this, like, all right, what's the plot? Who are the characters? Where's the set? And you start thinking about all that stuff from content creation, not the stuff that you're actually just going to do. Then where I landed here, I'm like, all right, I'm getting lost right now of figuring out what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do this. So I was like, okay, well, what are the things, like what's my kind of checklist of how I can start executing on this? I don't want to just dive in and have me doing it the whole time, because that's not setting us up for long-term success. And I know I'm going to burn out quickly or hop onto something else. So step 1, hire a freelancer. Step 2, I'm going to watch Oren's brand videos again, and I'm going to have the whole team watch them all again. Step 3 is going to be create the actual yearly calendar. Step 4 is we're going to have a kickoff meeting with the whole team, and then we're going to execute for 1 month, and then we're going to repeat that process. So instead of getting like big hoity-toity figuring everything out for the year, I'd rather just get enough of the context set, enough of a plan, and then start implementing and executing on a 1-month cadence, and then evaluate after that. One way to look at it is what's going to make us successful. But if I look at it as, well, what's preventing me from succeeding right now? That might help me unearth and identify some things that I need to fix, or like just a different way of looking at solving the problems. I'm focused on other areas of the business, my own content. I'm making my own stuff, trying to build my personal brand, and I just get, bored, or I don't want to do more content. Damn, I just lost my light, but I'm going to keep going. I'm not prioritizing it, how much time it takes to actually make this stuff. I'm not the expert. So Tim's the actual expert on the fitness stuff. That's not necessarily me, but there's a bottleneck there in terms of getting that content made. Script writing takes a bunch of time. Coming up with new and novel ideas. It's a low return on my investment so far. It's like, yeah, you get a bunch of, double taps and likes and things like that, but it's not paying rent. But by identifying those things and getting it out there, I now know what some things are blocking, and I can hire other people and build other systems to take care of those things. As you scale back and you look at all of this, where do you want to go? What would be a short-term, immediate checklist plan to help get you there? What are some things that are blocking you or the reason you're not able to execute right now? For somebody else to do all this stuff for me, it's going to be $100,000 a year on salary or something like that, right? But for me to be able to set the plan, come to these main pieces, and supply the freelancers, the hired guns, and now they have a really clear structure and know how to do these things, I'm going to be able to, 1, feel better like I know what's happening. 2, the people that are working for us and with us are gonna have a very clear idea of what their expectations are and where we're going and why, because they've been involved in the overall context. And then I've been honest with myself about why I haven't been able to execute so far. What do we have for the program today? A1 is a neutral grip pull-up, 5 sets, 8 reps with the 4-second eccentric. Now the thing is, we're trying to decrease the amount of rest in between work sets over the course of 4 weeks. So for example, if I take a minute off between each of my 5 sets, when I come back next week, I'm trying to take like 45 seconds. Then the week after that, 30 seconds. And the week after that, 15 seconds, right? And so we're gonna compress it down, and that's what's gonna make it harder. I'm not changing any weight. I'm not going up in reps or anything like that. Just decreasing the amount of time in between sets. Then for the B series, 4 sets of 8 reps, front foot elevated dumbbell split squat, dips, and single leg 1 dumbbell contra RDL.
Programming and getting these classes ready for the night, man. Let's do it. Get these people an amazing.
Also, you working front desk now?
I might as well, yeah. Getting ready for his personal training clients.
Coaches are getting ready for classes, for personal training clients. At least that's what they're telling me. And just finished the session right now, going back to the dungeon here. Books wise, I'm just about to finish Genghis Khan. I mean, Genghis Khan was a savage, literally and figuratively. We're talking like medieval Dark Ages, so around 1200 AD. If I had to sum it up, the Mongolians were just so tough due to the circumstances and the environment that they grew up in. They had to deal with stuff that nobody would have to deal with. They were just like a warrior culture through and through. If you weren't tough, you didn't make it. And they also were master horsemen and cavalry. So you didn't have like infantry that was just on foot. It was always on horseback. They would cover more ground than anybody else's army. So, one army might do 50 miles in like 2 days. They would do 150. They were full of trickery where they would kind of like pretend like they were retreating for a day or two. The enemy would chase them. And then in the night, they would kind of like circle them and then attack them. They were known for their bravery and courage, far more valor than anybody else. And they would literally just come up to cities, they'd put the siege on, and they would just decimate these places. And nobody would survive. If there were any survivors that they heard of, maybe they capture a town, they think they killed everybody. They find out that there are some people hiding in XYZ. They would send warriors back to slaughter everybody. So it was just like complete domination, intense, gnarly stuff. And like the whole world, Christians, Muslims were just afraid of the Mongolians. And the interesting part about this book was most of the stories that people knew about the Mongols were written from their enemies. So the Mongols didn't write any of this stuff down. And he pieces together the narrative and the history from the horror stories of the enemies that are cataloging this stuff, because oftentimes they would have biographers and geographers and people that were keeping a written record of what was going on in history. In contrast to Alexander the Great, who once he died, basically his empire went to hell, Genghis Khan's son, and then Genghis Khan's grandson, and then I want to even say maybe even his great-grandson after that. So there's like 3 or 4 generations where the Mongols still dominated power. You can't say that about Alexander the Great's empire. The Mongols were not technologically advanced. They were like less technologically advanced, where Alexander the Great is dealing with warships and these complicated sieges on islands and stuff. The Mongols were just like literally riding in and striking fear and terror into people. The Mongols conquered Cathay. I think it's called Cathay or Cathay, which is a antiquity term for China. and they were basically let in through the Great Wall because they befriended some tribes just outside the wall. They were let in, and they just go in and they take over the whole empire. You go soft when you're like these learned book types that were, had all this opulence, had all this money, had all this security, and they built these amazing cities, and these wandering nomad Mongols are just coming in and just taking over everything just because they're tougher and more warrior like.